Welcome to CruiserCast, where we interview some of the most influential people in tourism from around the world. My name is Graham Watson, and I'm the founder of Cruiser Global. The word cruiser means a new dawn, and in 2023, we want to find out just how our guests are working towards that new dawn. Join us and subscribe to future episodes as we hope to inspire you with stories of strength and resilience in the tourism industry. Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another edition of CruiserCast. Today, my guest is Quintin Smith, the managing partner of Cape Adventure Brands. How are you, Quintin?
Can't complain, thanks, Graham. It's 30 degrees and clear skies in Cape Town.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Thanks so much. So I had the very great fortune of being able to do one of your Bikes and Wines experiences about a year ago during World Travel Market Africa 2022. You probably remember it because it was bucketing down with rain, and
I remember that day clearly. It was not the best of cycling days. I can tell you that.
Especially to do like a fam and try and get people to learn about it. But it was great. Honestly, I mean, you know, it was one of those experiences that it's a lovely thing. And then at the end, you know, we had a beautiful meal and some lovely wine in a warm restaurant. So yeah, it was interesting. But that must happen to you quite a lot with the weather, doesn't it?
And I think with any outdoor and adventure-based activity, weather plays a huge role, whether it's hiking or kayaking or cycling or abseiling. You know, weather is part of the experience, to say.
Yeah.
And Cape Town being Cape Town, you can experience 4 seasons in one day. You wake up in the morning and there's blue skies, and you have a cup of coffee, look out the window and it's raining, and you jump in the car and you get to where you're going and it's blowing a gale, and then 3 hours later it's sunny again. So weather's par for the course.
Great. Yeah. I mean, and it's definitely is. So just tell everybody listening who you are and what you've been up to in the tourism industry over the past few years.
So I'm the company that I mentioned earlier. So Cape Adventure Brands. It's a newly formed, I would say, aggregator of our own, either fully owned or co-owned, industry recognized, diverse, and then market leading activity and adventure specialists. So essentially we're acting as an umbrella company for outdoor and adventure based travel in Cape Town. So within 60 to 90 minutes drive, focusing on day tours, hiking, cycling, kayaking, and outdoor adventure.
Yeah, perfect. So you've grown a lot. You've added a few more adventure activities in the past year and a bit. So maybe tell us a bit about that specifically with kayaking.
So I mean, just to take a step back, I've been involved now. This is my 17th year involved in the tourism industry. I sort of fell into it by virtue of the fact that it was a sideline job and a sideline hustle when I was working for a big corporate. I didn't enjoy the suit and tie, and I decided to branch out and see, what was out there in the big wide world. And as everything happens, over a good glass or 2 or 3 of wine, these crazy ideas, and Bikes and Wines was launched. And that was the first venture that we got involved in the travel and tourism industry. And Bikes and Wines is celebrating its 17th year this year, obviously -2 for COVID.
Yeah.
And then with the onset of COVID, with global travel shutting down, I had a lot of time to think, to strategize, to plan, to restructure. And that's where the idea of Cape Adventure Brands sort of came about, to act as a distributor of our own product, really, because it's a stamp of approval within the industry, utilizing industry recognized names already. So about a year ago, I went into a partnership with a colleague of mine who runs a boat touring company, Seal Island Cruises, and we launched Cape Town Kayaks.
Yeah.
So I was chatting to somebody the other day, and 3 or 4 years ago, cycling was the new golf, and I think now kayaking is the new cycling, because it doesn't matter where you are globally, just there are kayak tours springing up left, right, and center. And I think at the last count, there were 13 different kayak tour operators in the greater Cape Town area.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's quite a thing.
Okay. And so describe that experience.
So we operate out of Hout Bay. So So we launched out of the harbor. So it's very nice there. You know, it's a very sheltered, very protected launch space. So not weather dependent.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
because
Good.
because when you're on the water, rain is not so much of an issue, but wind is. You don't want to get a southeaster howling and blowing you off to the south of Antarctica.
Yeah.
So depending on the people's skill level and ability, it's a sit on top. So you get two types of sea kayaks. You get a sit in, which is essentially you're sitting inside the boat and you've got a splash deck over you and you can get wet, or you get a sit on. And a sit on basically you just sit on top of the boat. It's a very broad, very stable, very user-friendly piece of equipment. And we head out through the harbor. We're very fortunate in Hout Bay. There's the SEAL rehabilitation unit there. And we often see through, paddling out across the bay to underneath the beautiful sandstone cliffs of Chapman's Peak. So you've got these iconic 550, 600 meter high sandstone cliffs that you're paddling to the base of before turning around and heading back into the harbor for a 90-minute to 2-hour excursion.
Wow. That sounds awesome. And fitness level wise, is it anybody?
Same as any, adventure-based experience. Again, I'm going to refer back to hiking or cycling. Fitness is relative, and you've always got to be accommodating of people's differing fitness levels. So depending on the guests on the day, the guide will accommodate their ability. We have, experience is needed. So you don't need to know how to paddle. The guide will obviously educate you and give you the basics and instruction in the morning. And if you are strong kayakers, you just do more distance. And if you're strong hikers, if you're strong cyclists, you end up doing more distance. You end up doing things a bit more technical. But again, fitness is a relative to me, to you, to professional athletes. And the guides accommodate for all those needs.
Yeah. And of course, it always depends on how the previous evening went to your state of fitness the next morning.
How many glasses of good Cape Red you've had?
Yes, yeah. So, and also just tell us a bit about the e-bike experience. I was very impressed, looking to probably get an e-bike for myself, because it's just sometimes you just need that bit of extra oomph when you're going up a hill. So just explain a bit how the e-bikes themselves work.
Yeah, so now e-bikes are a revolution in the cycling world. Probably in the last 4 to 5 years, actually the demand for e-bikes has absolutely exploded on a global scale. In a nutshell, an e-bike is a motorized bicycle. It's a pedal assist bike, so it assists you whilst you're pedaling, and it has varying degrees of assistance. So it's not the old moped style where you push a lever and you sort of putter along without pedaling. An e-bike, all modern e-bikes, you have to pedal, but then it can give you varying degrees of assistance, from 20 up to 100%. And then at the moment, I think South Africa, because of the South African laws, they're electronically limited to a maximum of 25 kilometers an hour. And that's a regulation. Then there's a couple of guys, the cowboys, who deregulate them to go really fast. But an e-bike, as you say, it's inclusionary. So anybody of any ability who knows how to cycle can jump on an e-bike and you can ride along, and we call it the cherry tomato faced effect. So you get to the top of a hill and you've been really huffing and puffing and pedaling away, and somebody on an e-bike arrives next to you and they're fresh as a daisy. They've put it into boost mode or put it into turbo mode. And it just takes the challenge out of riding a bike, especially on a leisurely Wineland cycle tour.
Yeah, no, I mean, as I say, I was very, very impressed. So what is a typical tour that you do for Bikes and Wines in particular?
Sure. So Bikes and Wines, I think the name speaks to itself. Again, we've spoken about the fact that it's the Southern Cape, Western Cape. It's great food, great wine, friendly people. So we've combined all of those into a holistic Wineland cycling tour experience. So it's essentially good food, great wine, and amazing cycling over the course of a day. The Western Cape is renowned globally for its vineyards, and we cycle through the vineyards. So it's an experiential tour. You're cycling through the vines, in harvest time, which is happening right now as we speak. Guests will be cycling along from wine estate to wine estate. They'll be picking the grapes off the vines, tasting the grapes, feeling the soil, and then 15 minutes later, they'll be drinking the produce.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
No roads, no public roads, or just through
we geographically are limited, but we steer clear of roads as far as possible. So Stellenbosch, which is where the majority of our tours take place. So Stellenbosch and Franschhoek are the two major regions. But Stellenbosch, 80 to 90% of the cycling that we do on a course of a day is over private farmland. So crossing up to 14 different wine farms. Again, some large commercial estates, some boutique, family-owned, sort of kept in the family for 4 or 5 generations. Through the vines, gravel roads, back roads, no traffic.
Yeah, that's great. So the guests will get fetched in Cape Town, get taken to the Winelands area, or obviously if they're in the Winelands already, you'll fetch them from their hotel there. And yeah, I mean, so and then you go cycling and wine tasting, and there's a lovely lunch. So it really is a beautiful day. Is there an age restriction?
For cycling, no. For the kayaking tours, we have a limit of 5 years old. For the cycling tours, we have dedicated family-friendly tours. So family-focused, where children as young as 12, 14, 16 months would join us on a tour. There's the full size curve and spectrum of bikes and buggies and half bikes. And on the opposite end of the spectrum is we don't really have an upper age limit. And the reason I say that is last week, in fact, we had an 89-year-old and a 92-year-old join us on a half-day e-bike tour in Franschhoek.
Great. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, they jumped on the bikes. They obviously, I think the biggest struggle there was getting their legs over the top bar. But once they were on, this 92-year-old gentleman, he's been cycling for 60% of his life, 70% of his life. And off he toddled. He put his bike into turbo mode or into boost mode, and he was leading the pack at 92 years old. It's absolutely incredible to see.
Yeah. No, I must say, for anybody who hasn't had an e-bike experience, I would highly recommend it, because it really is. There is hardly any like physical effort if you don't want there to be, and just get you up those hills, and it's all happy days. So just getting back to the last 3 years that of which we will probably not want to speak in a few, I think everybody's still, and it's amazing how almost every guest, speaks about the resilience and what they've learned about themselves. What do you think you learned about yourself personally over the last 3 years, considering everything that's happened?
Oh no, the last 3 years were fantastic. What are you talking about? three-year sabbatical.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that's of which shall not be spoken.
Meditate. Yeah.
I think myself, like many others in the travel and tourism industry, it's an insular industry in the sense that people from outside don't really understand the effect that COVID had on us and on industry. But within the industry itself, within the travel and tourism and hospitality industry, it's a global family. So, really taking from those 3 years the fantastic friendships that have been formed and were forged over that period of time. And I can attest to the fact that I have gotten closer to a lot of industry colleagues who are now considered to be some of my best friends, thanks to COVID. So taking the positive from that. Again, what else can be taken out of the 3 years? I think, again, as you mentioned, it is resilience. We're inherently a resilient bunch, and bouncing back to pre-COVID levels has not necessarily been easy, but everything is taken in its stride. It's another day, another challenge, and the typical South African psyche is just to make a joke of it. With all of the other challenges that are happening, nationally, national level, global level, the South African psyche, there's something happens and 5 minutes later the internet is flooded with memes. So
absolutely,
that's just what happens here.
Yeah, look, it's I think a lot of people are still trying to get back on their feet. We certainly by no means through like I keep saying, we all just waiting to take that to exhale and just say, right, that's over with now. And move on. I think a lot of businesses such as yourself, you must be seeing almost back to pre-pandemic levels. Am I right?
Yeah, we've been very fortunate in that we're actually higher than pre-pandemic levels.
Wow.
If we average out so if it's a month-on-month comparison, we are between 10 and 15% higher than our pre-pandemic levels. People are like, wow, that's amazing, that's incredible. There's a couple of factors that can be attributed to, but I think one of the biggest, contributing factors to that is there was this massive pent-up demand, which like a balloon exploding, so the dam wall overflowing, and everybody wanted to travel at once, which led to challenges in itself. I think leading on from that is, we've come through now, I would say, what are we now, March? So January, February, March of last year was when we were starting to see the return to normal, starting to see regular booking patterns emerge, starting to see COVID subsiding. And this, I'm not talking globally, I'm talking within our sphere of influence here down in the Western Cape.
Yeah.
Airports were opening up, travel was becoming a lot easier. And it just never subsided. Typically, again, the Western Cape, we have a quiet quarter, which is from May, quietens down. June for us is historically a very, very quiet month. And then July and August picks up with the Dutch and Belgian and German travel. And it was like the floodgates had opened. So we had this incredibly busy winter period, which historically we never would have had. That, led to challenges of its own, because staffing, staff capacity, and literally going from zero to hero in a space of 3 months after 24 months of almost nothing. It's just, keeping your head above water and making sure that you can get to the other end of season so you can recoup, regroup, re-strategize, and then move forward, which we're sitting on now. So I think us, like many of our industry colleagues on the operator side, are looking forward to a quieter winter.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think everybody's in the just say yes and make it happen mode, because you kind of have to. Yeah.
Yes, you take business from whence it comes, and then you make a plan to make it happen.
It sounds like it might be a good like bachelor party or hens party kind of experience. Do you get a lot of those?
We've had a few. Typically the bachelor suffers greatly because you give him a bicycle without a seat post.
Oh
give
my
him a
gosh!
bike
Oh my word! Yeah.
Boys tend to be a little bit more rowdy than the ladies do. We've had a good couple of ladies bachelorettes come through, or hen parties. But they're far more sedate, where they just would prefer to sit on the lawn and drink bubbles before cycling to another farm to farm. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, so you ran through briefly how you got into the adventure tourism. I mean, would you say that your kind of day to day, you're active and adventurous, or you as well, and what you personally do?
I'm sitting on the side of a podcast here. There's no camera, so you can't really see it. No, I come from, again, I'm talking now sort of 10 plus years back. I used to be, in my personal capacity, incredibly active. I used to race. It's called adventure racing.
Yeah.
So it's multidisciplinary, ultra distance endurance sport.
Gosh.
Were you racing? Were you on a bike, on a boat, hiking through mountains for 4, 5, 6 days at a time? And I was competing on an international level at this sport. But that's all consuming. It's you're training 20, 30, sometimes up to 40 hours a week, and then trying to fit in a normal life. So I had to sacrifice something, and I'd reached I won't say the pinnacle, but I'd reached a point at which I thought I'm going to hang up my competitive boots, so to speak. And now I still run, I still cycle, but I do it in a far more toned down approach. Yeah. Now I temper everything with a good glass or 3 of Chardonnay afterwards.
Yeah. Well, that's the way to go. You found the niche there. So productivity wise, how do you structure your day now? Because I know when I experienced your lovely product, you came personally to fetch us, and that was quite early. So do you still take groups out yourself?
I try and avoid it as much as possible. Again, if we're talking over the last sort of 36 months, pre-COVID, we had a team of 18, and that was guides, drivers, mechanics, operations, res, finance, etc. And I sort of just steered the boat. Through the period of 2020, 21, 22, the team went from 18 down to 3. It was myself, my financial director, and I kept two senior guides on a part-time retainer. Unfortunately, we had to, as many did, retrench the majority of the team.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sitting back now, I think we're sitting on 13 staff on a permanent basis, with the view to employ 3 to 4 more guides in the upcoming summer, October season going forward. Me getting out on a tour, I do that every now and then. I do it more just to keep a finger on the pulse, to keep in touch with what's happening on the ground. I think it's absolutely vital. My day to day is not getting out on a bike and drinking wine, although I would love it to be that.
Yeah.
It's, it's business development.
Yeah.
It's business. It's just steering the ship in the right direction.
Yeah.
And overseeing and making sure that the guys on the ground are giving 110% on a daily basis. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to see you so often in the UK, and we hope to see you a lot more this year as well. Yeah, I think it's definitely a good. You've got some great products. So in terms of technology and how that's grown during the pandemic, how have you implemented new technologies into your business?
I must admit, I'm a bit of an undercover nerd, a bit of a techno geek when it comes to tech stack.
You and me both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad. Embrace it.
It's not public knowledge.
Yeah.
From a personal capacity, we've or from a business side, so not personal capacity, from a business aspect, we've worked hard to automate as much of the business process as possible without losing that personal touch. So when it comes to agent bookings or direct bookings via a website, it's 80% automated, but that human touch at the end of the day is absolutely critical because of the industry we're in. We've steered clear of chatbots and those automated responses, not for any reason other than when I'm making a booking, doing something, I want to be able to speak to a human at the end of the line.
Yeah.
So, we've got WhatsApp is integrated into all of our communications platforms. Our actual booking process is completely automated, where you can just log on, select your date because there's live availability, click and book and pay. But the minute you do that flicks us over to, there's an API integration into WhatsApp. And then once the booking is made, there's a one-on-one communication with the res team. So, we use a variety of aftermarket or third-party software outside of the website to make that happen. But again, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. And channel distribution and res tech at the moment is absolutely exploding on a global scale. But operators, and I'm saying operators, I'm talking like the guy on the ground, not so much the DMCs. Everybody's structure is different. And there's no one-size-fits-all solution with any of the res tech software out there. So we've mixed and matched as best as possible, obviously keeping costs in mind, because your costs can absolutely explode if you bundle 5, 6, 7 different software packages together. And as a small business, you've always got to be mindful of those expenses, especially when it comes to off-season. So sort of cobble together something that best fits us. And we've found that, we've actually gone into custom development. So we've spent large amounts of money up front doing custom development on the various websites. And then off that custom development, we've added on existing tech to make things work.
And out in the field, what's happening there with the actual guides and in any bikes? I mean, in terms of how that's developing and technology.
Again, you've touched on e-bikes. I think globally, kayaking tours, foodie walking tours, and e-bike tours are leading the charge when it comes to outdoor adventure or accessible activity adventure. Not just in South Africa, but globally. Take all of that away. At the end of the day, doesn't matter how technologically advanced you are or how tech savvy you are. It's the guide. It's the guy on the bike, in the boats, on the trail in front of you who's going to make or break your product. So, they can have all the technological assistance needed. You can have those in-ear walking earphones. You can have GPX routes that are preloaded on tours. There's dozens of facets that you can explore. But at the end of the day, it's the human capital. It's the human influence. It's the friendly guide. It's the smile on arrival. It's the competence. It's the education that they have, and it's the experience that they deliver. So take all the tech away. I personally believe that the guy on the ground or girl on the ground delivering that experience is what will make or break a product, and not the tech behind it.
Yeah. There's a lot of focus on SME development around the world. What advice can you give aspiring entrepreneurs who are interested in starting their own adventure travel company?
Ask. Question. Don't be shy. Reach out. There's so many platforms that are out there where people, you're not reinventing the wheel. You don't have to cut your teeth by bashing your head against a brick wall. Get out there. Don't be shy. Ask questions. And I think if I can speak from personal experience, is I've walked that journey a couple of years, decade ago, whenever it may be. Is I was the guy who was going, what is this? What is a net rate? What is STO? What is RAC? What is a DMC? The acronyms they're never ending. And just put your hand up and say, guys, please tell me, what do you do in a situation like this? Why do you do it this way? Why do you do it that way? And then take from it what you can.
And the most rewarding thing, I started my own business during COVID, and the most rewarding thing is when somebody gives you advice or is willing to impart knowledge that is technically competitor knowledge. You know what I mean? So they're telling you how to compete against them, and that's the one of the best things, and that's what I'm trying to do as well. It's just help. There's enough room for everybody, and I think if you're confident enough in what you're doing yourself, and you're not worried that helping someone's going to then in the long term affect your own business.
You even hit the nail on the head there. I think I would rather grow the pie and have a bigger piece of the bigger pie than keep the pie all to myself, and it's absolutely tiny. The more competition is good. Competition is healthy. There's ethical competition and there's unethical competition, but somebody sticking their hand up and asking a question and saying, why are you doing it this way? Or how are you doing it? Or tell me what you do. That's a different story. Getting somebody involved. And again, my personal ethos, Graham, is not to say, do it this way. It would be to share an experience that I've had and why I did it a certain way. And from that, whoever's taking it, they can extrapolate or take from it what they want.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you get to experience other people's products, either in South Africa or around the world, that are similar to yours?
I've had the fortune of traveling globally for the last decade, and I've made a point of tagging on a holiday, even if it's 4 or 5 days, whenever I'm traveling for business. So I'm doing a sales trip to the UK or sales trip to South America, wherever it may be. It's a long way to go. It's a long way to travel. There's a lot of intensive work. And then I say, right, so I've done my 5 or 6 or 8 days of trade shows or 10 days of trade shows and interaction. And then I go and I say, right, so now let's go see what somebody in south of London is doing on a bike tour.
Yeah.
And just benchmark us. I don't necessarily do it to learn new ways of doing things, but I do it to benchmark us, A, as a product, and B, as a destination. The Western Cape, in my humble opinion, ticks all the boxes when it comes to travel global. We have amazing views. We have incredible food. We have friendly people. We've got sunshine. We've got wide open spaces and blue skies. We've got, unfortunately for us, but great for you, on the pound and the dollar. We've got a very a great currency to come and spend money in. So I see no reason why we should not be at the forefront of global travel.
Yeah.
And just to benchmark, just coming back, is to benchmark us against global destinations, whether it's cycling in Mallorca or boat cruises in Greece, whatever it may be, just to say, where are we and how are we doing things? And a lot of the time, we're doing things a lot better
Yeah.
than businesses elsewhere, especially on service delivery.
Yeah. No, I mean I mean I've realized that when working in like the entertainment industry, it's everybody always assumes that the rest of the world is doing it better. But when you get out there, you realize that South Africans or Africans in general are the products are first class, top notch, and we mustn't always assume that we can learn from the big wide world because it's better. It's not necessarily better. It's just that it's different, and we can learn different ways of doing things. As you say, I'm very techno as well, and so there's so many lovely tools that we can now all use to help automate the way we do things in the back office, to help what we do out there in the big wide world a lot better. I'll definitely be the next time you're in the UK, let's go e-bike shopping. I think so.
On your credit card, please.
Yeah, well, there definitely will have to be a credit card. Yeah, because the debit card might bounce. But it's interesting, and also the batteries. I mean, I mean, everybody's now on these batteries are being used for everything now, even cars. It must. I mean, that's a huge thing. I mean, charging them up and making sure that it's got enough charge to go. That logistics wise, it must be a bit of a nightmare for you.
Logistics. I mean, we speak again, not necessarily just bicycles, Graham, but if you speak to any operator who has a product with moving parts, mechanical or not, moving parts, they're always banging their head against the wall, pulling their hair out because this is broken or that is not done or this is a issue. I think it's part of the course based on the product that you're offering.
Yeah.
Whether it's a boat, whether it's a bike, whether it's a Jeep, whether it's a Land Rover, it's, something breaks down and all of a sudden your size curve of 10 bicycles of small, medium, large, extra large, 2 of them break. You've lost 20% of your capacity, and that's 2 smalls out of the fleet. So now you've got to hustle. You've got to find a spare this. You've got to find a new screen. You've got to find a new this. You've got to find a new that.
Yeah.
Logistically it is a challenge, but it's horses for courses, and it's par for the course. One thing I can say, specifically when it comes to South Africa and the Southern African market, is that we can't compete against some places like the US and Europe when it comes to sheer volume of travelers. So a lot of the time tech and a lot of the time product that's adopted successfully in the United States or in Europe or in the UK, it would fall flat on its face here just because we don't have the sheer volume of numbers needed to drive the success of that product. Something like Stripe payments or Revolut payments, or there's dozens. When it comes to those car rental apps or the Lime scooter app, we just don't have the volume of people that make something like that viable. And there's a bit of a lag. There's a tech lag. There's a bit of a whether it comes to e-bikes. And this, I quote this stat quite often. So there's a company in Mallorca. They're a bike tour rental company. They've got a rental fleet of 4,000 Trek Madones.
Wow.
So that's one company. And each one of those bikes retails probably in South African rands for about 70 to 80,000 rand.
Jeez.
These guys have 4,000 of them.
Goodness.
And every single one of those bikes is rented out every single day for a 4-month period over their peak season. Now that's one operator who probably has more bikes than all of the bike shops and all of the rental companies in the entire South Africa.
Yeah, combined. Yeah.
Wow. It's purely from a volumes basis. And when it comes to supply chain, we are a pimple on the end of the supply chain. We are small. We're the guys at the end who have to beg for spares and beg for parts.
Yeah.
So those struggles come, when it comes to especially cyclists and cycling, and the supply chain crunch that originated with COVID.
Yeah.
There were bike shops or there were wholesalers here who were waiting up to 9 months to get components and spare parts shipped in.
Mm.
So now this is a wholesaler who's servicing the entire South Africa, who's struggling to get parts. You've got to place your order 9 months in advance just to make sure that you have spares on the shelf for if and when something breaks down. So yeah, logistically it is a bit of a challenge, but yeah, we have sunshine 360 days a year, so I'll take that.
No, that's great. What's the long-term strategy? Are you looking to add more products, or are you kind of just cooling it down for now? I mean, obviously launching the kayaks must have been quite a thing. Is there more in the pipeline?
Yeah, so the kayaks was the one. And we didn't even touch that. In October last year, we actually purchased another bike to a company. We bought them out from another. Their guys were wanting to close down, wanting to shut down. So we bought that in. We added that to the fleet. So that's complementary to the bikes and wine side of things. So at the moment, we've got in the Cape Adventure Brands portfolio, it's the kayaking, it's bikes and wines, it's iRide Africa. So iRide Africa is the company that we bought. It's a very established brand as well, but it plays in a completely different segment of the market. It's private guided, premium road and mountain bike rentals and tours.
Okay.
So whereas bikes and wines would speak to the everyday traveler who wanting to get out on a bike and do a wine tour on a cycle, iRide Africa is for the guy who wants to come out and he knows what he's doing. He knows how to ride and he wants the best of the best when it comes to equipment wise. So with that, and then the intention in the next, I think by April, I'm going to touch wood with that one, is we've got a walking and hiking tour brand that's going to be launched to market. And again, they're all complementary to each other. So it's all outdoor and adventure-based activities within 90 minutes of Cape Town. So leveraging off our existing products and our existing infrastructure, but just a different medium or different mode of transportation.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to have a well-earned break.
You say that, and then something else will come along. It's there's entrepreneurship and holidays don't tend to go hand in hand, do they?
No, they don't. But I said
Domus
met jou kak, yeah.
Yeah. I always just look at old Elon, our little South African Elon Musk. He's he's definitely not a fan of worrying about rest too much. It's always like just go. You're not going to be the richest man in the world if you don't sleep for 4 hours and sleep in the factory. That's his big thing, so every time I feel like, it's important to rest and take, I think, well, you don't get to be super successful if you do, but it's finding that balance, I suppose. And when the word retirement comes along, then you can say, well, that was well earned, I suppose.
That's a few years off.
Oh, absolutely.
I've got a couple of years left in me before I hang up my boots.
Yeah. So that's all me too. Yeah. So but it's been incredible to see how we've all kind of banded together. As you said, you've now made sort of lifelong friends out of the partnerships you formed during COVID. It's very it's been a very interesting time, and there's so many people that are tentative optimism, like I call it, because it's you kind of just thinking, oh well, the bookings are looking great and everything, but then you just kind of just in the back of your mind waiting for something to go wrong. I think we need to get over that a lot.
Yeah, I think people's psyches were damaged.
Yeah.
I'm more for the less tentative optimism. I'm more for the optimistic optimism.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing with travel and tourism was the lack of certainty.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the lack of certainty and allowing again the people on the ground, the operators, the hotels, the vehicle guys, is the opportunity to plan and to forecast and say, right or not, I can confidently expect that I'm going to have X number of travelers coming through my doors in the next 12 months.
Yeah.
And I think that's returned to normal again. I think I can say that with confidence that we are getting, as a day tour operator, we were already getting bookings for 2024.
Great.
Which, it's inspiring, and it allows me to sleep better at night, because I know that if I'm spending the money now, buying a new bikes, buying a new cars, training new guides, growing the staffing component in the res team or whatever it may be, is that the business is already there. The business is going to continue to flow and continue to be there in 2023, 2024, and on to 2025. And I'm not one person in a boat. Everyone's headed in the same direction in that regard.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot more checks and balances now for lockdown rules and all that kind of stuff. It's just watching the news in the UK over the last few days, there's been very interesting discoveries.
Allegations?
Yeah, allegations and discoveries and about what was going on and and were the lockdowns necessary, were the masks necessary. So I think now that everybody can hope, we're in a hindsight mode now, and which is fantastic to be able to do that. I just think that there's too many checks and balances, and I think a lot of people will just refuse to do it. It's to allow a few people sitting around a table to affect your business that you've worked your entire life for, and I don't know. I don't think it's gonna happen again in the next.
Not touch wood, not in our lifetime.
Yeah.
But we're not planning for it. We're for all intents and purposes, that's out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
Prefer to forget. And for us, everything is just focusing on the future and going from strength to strength, hopefully.
No, it's great to see the adventure sector getting so much attention. SATS has even just formed a new chapter, the adventure chapter. Yeah. So it's great to see that take off. Are you planning on, when in terms of expansion, you're just going to stick around the Cape region, or are you looking at other areas of the country?
And like I said, for now, we're going to just consolidate within the Western Cape. The intention is, so under the Cape Adventure Brands portfolio, will be 60 to 90 minutes from, I say, the center of the universe, which is Cape Town.
No, that's Durban, brother.
60 to 90 minutes, sort of day trips, half day trips, and maybe 2 or 3 days up the coastline. But to focus on the Western Cape for now, purely because I believe so passionately in what we have to offer in the Western Cape.
Yeah.
I've mentioned it already. It's the people, it's the food, it's the wine, it's the vistas, it's the ability to get out into the middle of nowhere when you're literally 90 minutes drive from the city and it feels like you're halfway across the globe in the middle of the jungle.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot more potential, that untapped potential in the Western Cape.
Yeah.
The focus in the short to medium term will be here, and then we take on the rest of the country and see what happens after that.
What do you think still needs to change? There's a lot of positivities comes out of COVID, but is there anything that you would think, if this were this way, our lives and the lives of everybody else in the tourism industry, the actual traveler, would just be so much better?
I think that's a discussion that we have over a bottle of red wine. There's a lot you don't want to record. There's a lot that needs to change. There's a lot that should have changed already. But inherently, human beings are resistant to change.
Yeah.
Are resistant to taking everyone takes the path of least resistance, or just goes rote and routine and do what they do on a daily basis, which is not always the best thing, especially when it comes to our socioeconomic output in Southern Africa.
Yeah.
I think in the short term, I think as a country, we're facing a couple of uphill battles. Chief amongst that being the lack of power.
Especially for an e-bike company. How does that affect?
Especially for an e-bike company.
Yeah.
We just get people bikes with half-charged batteries, and we just
say
you got to push the rest of the way. No. We're partly off-grid in that regard, so we charge the bikes as and when are needed, and they don't use. We're not a large commercial power user.
Yeah.
So when the power is on, it's sufficient to charge. But I think, especially with the UK, and I've never understood why, is South Africa gets an incredibly bad rap in the media. The media always loves to talk smack, and they pick on the the rubbish stories.
Yeah, yeah,
But then when people arrive here and they go, "You've got such an incredible country," I hear so many bad things about it, but the reality is the complete opposite.
yeah,
I think that's something that needs to change, and that's something that us as an industry, as a South African collective, need to sort of band behind and really force that message across.
yeah,
And take on the international media and the negative media and say, what you're selling is sensationalism. The reality is very different. Please speak the truth.
yeah. And I think there are a lot of journalists coming through, a lot of travel writers. We've just had Richard Quest. I think he did a great job from CNN coming out. There's Eugene Levy's just been out to South Africa in his Netflix.
He's had one, and I think Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise did a good job. Yeah, I mean he spoke about Ubuntu and so there's just a lot of good things. Africa in general, it's I think a lot of people now it's I mean they're just wanting to give back, and it's a great. I mean, I've traveled a lot in the last year, actually, probably more than any other year, oddly enough, 2022, throughout Africa. I've got partners in Uganda. And that's another thing. In Uganda, I never realized that's an adventure tourism destination as well. People just think, gorillas. You don't realize that there is Big Five, game viewing, whitewater rafting on the Nile River. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, so there's so much to do in Africa in terms of adventure, and it's great to see you at the forefront of that. I'm looking forward to seeing all the other ideas.
I wouldn't say forefront, but thank you very much for that compliment.
No,
we're just doing what we're doing as best we can, and hopefully good things come from it.
Yeah, no, good. I've always said be the trendsetter, not the trend follower, and I think the more you can come up with things, the sustainability is a huge thing. So, if you can figure out how to get off the grid and, in terms of anything, I'm sure there's going to be lots of self-charging batteries, especially in the e-bike world. Someone's going to figure that out. There's a lot of good things happening. And, what's your international travel like this year, or are you trying to take it a bit easy?
To be honest, I have not given that much thought. For us, international travel at the moment, we just want to get through this quarter again. We've got, in terms of trade shows, we've got a couple local trade shows that we're attending.
Yeah.
Obviously World Travel Market, and then Travel and Darba in Durban.
Yeah. And
that brings us to, I think, May. And then only after May will I sit down again and sort of regroup.
Yeah.
Purely, last year I was in the UK 2 or 3 times. I was, very busy outside of the Western Cape. But the fact that we've piled on so many new companies and so many new brands and activities means that it's all hands on deck here. And international travel might be curtailed for a year. And maybe end of 2023, beginning of 2024, head over to Europe. And our big source markets are mainland Europe, so Benelux and the DAC markets, the UK and the United States.
Yeah, interesting.
So sort of to retouch base with people there. But for now, there's been no discussion. There's been no thought. It's all just get through the season unscathed, get the brands out there on the local side, and then we tackle that in the next half of the year.
So with all the merging of brands and buying of new ones and developing of new ones, where's the best central place to go on the web to get a bit more information and to even book?
So to get general information about each of the different companies, it's capeadventurebrands.co.za.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can branch off into each specific company with its activities and book directly online.
Okay. Yeah, great. And then for the international travelers, just keep bikes and wines and Cape kayaking. What?
Cape Town kayaks.
Cape Town kayaks, and all the other brands in mind when you talking to your travel professional planning your trip. Certainly is a great day out. You'll remember it. And Quintin, thanks for joining me. and I hope to watch the business grow, and hopefully be able to take part in a bit more of your activities while my body still can.
Yeah, no, Graham, thanks so much for having me. It's a great thing you've got going here, and it's inspirational to listen to all of the other travel professionals that you've had on the show.
Yeah,
and sort of glean inspiration from them as well. So the invite's always open. I'll make sure that you get an e-bike with a charged battery when you come out next time. So come
Thank you.
I would say I'd lift the blinds up now and show you the blue skies and 30-degree weather. You're sitting in rainy London.
Yeah.
We want to make you jealous.
We're getting an Arctic blast or something coming this week. So, it's very, very interesting how different it is. But I will be coming out for Indaba, so I'll see you there. And yeah, trying to just get the work the best of both. Get South Africa or Africa and the UK in. And again, if you ever wanted to experience any of the products that I represent, you're more than welcome to. I just invited Cindy Muller out to Burundi. So
Lovely.
We're launching Burundi with Pinnacle Africa. Well, not launching it. We sort of showcasing it soon in the UK. And yeah, if ever you want to go whitewater rafting down the Nile, just give us a shout, man. It's yeah.
I will take you up on that one. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Quintin. Thanks for your time. We'll chat soon.
Great. Thanks, Graham.
Bye.
Yep.
Thanks for tuning into KuzaCast, where we explore the world of tourism with leaders from all corners of the globe. Join me, Graham Watson, for future episodes as we dive into the latest trends and insights from the industry. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating, and we'll see you next time on KuzaCast.